Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing my life means nothing when we're apart. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing my life means nothing when we're apart. So one of the most common statements that my audio coaching clients say to me is that my life means nothing when we're apart. And this is sadly a common and painful thought that you are likely to have as a dumpee. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 points to consider when I challenge this statement. So let's get straight into this. And point number 1 is life is precious. So the fact that you're listening to this podcast right now means that you've won the lottery 1,000,000 times over. You've won the lottery 1,000,000 times over just to be born. The odds on us actually being alive are hard to quantify. I once heard that they were 1 in 4 quadrillion, but I'm not even sure if that is accurate. To me, that doesn't seem wide enough odds. I think it's going to be much more unlikely for us to be born than 1 in 4 quadrillion, but who knows? Let me know in the YouTube comments if you've heard that as well. But if it is 1 in 4 quadrillion, or if it is much, much more, like I am starting to think to myself, I think it's probably a much wider margin of the odds on us actually being alive. Whatever the situation is, that is huge numbers. It is so lucky that I'm able to speak to you and you are able to listen to me. We are so fortunate to be here. I'm incredibly lucky to be alive, just as you are. We're also lucky, and that should be the first point number 1 about why life is precious, because the fact we're here at all is just incredible. We also have limited time. Life is not a dress rehearsal. We must realise that our life is finite. Now, the oldest human being to ever live just scraped into their 120s, and they're the only person to do so at the time of me speaking to you via this podcast. Now, what does the future hold? Well, hopefully, in 50 to 100 years' time, there'll be many more people who get into their 120s. But let's be real about this. It's not likely to be all of us. We are going to be somewhat fortunate to get into our hundreds. Although more and more people every single year are getting past the age of 100, it is still unlikely that all of us will do that. So when we start counting backwards, you can see that we realise life is finite, life is precious, life is to be lived, and we can't be defined by one person. We can't be defined by somebody breaking our heart and making us feel like my life means nothing. Now, I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of you, if not all of you, would say that you remember some level of happiness before you met your ex. Before you and your ex got together, you did feel happiness, you did smile, you did laugh, you did enjoy life. And therefore, you can enjoy these experiences without your ex. You did it before them, you did it with them, and you will do it after them. These feelings you are going through right now are troubling, to say the least. They're very difficult, they're very challenging. They are similar to a combination of grief and drug withdrawal, but you will get through this. This is temporary, and you need to remember that there is so much in life to explore and discover. So many things for you to see and do. Life is precious. Your life is not defined by your ex. Your life is defined by you and what you do with it. And if you keep listening through today's podcast, I will be giving you suggestions of how to add meaning to your life and why I believe this could be the greatest year of your life. Whenever you listen to this podcast and whatever situation you are going through, I believe that this year can still be the best year of your life. So please keep listening. But I would like you to let me know in the YouTube comments How long have you been single? When did your breakup take place? And how are you feeling right now? Don't be afraid of the feelings you're going through. They're normal, but they are temporary. So if you're feeling incredibly down, that is very natural, but don't feel that it's going to define you forevermore, because life is precious, and when you come out the other side of your grief, you will be able to fully enjoy and immerse yourself in what everything life has to offer. What I'm trying to encourage you to do right now is to try to kickstart that moment. Look, you can't cheat grief. You can't take a shortcut through grief. But what you can do is start trying to enjoy things during the moments where you're feeling a little bit better, because you're not going to be feeling the most terrible every single second. You're going to have moments where you're feeling a little bit better, and that is the time to really try to push forward and enjoy life to the full. That will actually help you sustain these moments of feeling happy, because you'll be taking your mind off your situation and realizing that there are opportunities out there, including new connections to be made, whether they are platonic or potentially new romantic options. They are out there, but you have to be out in the world to find them. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about my life means nothing when we're apart. And point number 2 is how to add meaning. So like I said in point number 1, I was going to let you know about how to add meaning to your life. Now, when you listen to these examples, if you think, well, I want extra support, I want specific, unique ideas for me, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your specific scenario. Go to my website, www.dateme.tips, for more details about how I can become your coach and your teammate. So how to add meaning? How to add meaning to your life? Well, I would say the first thing to do is to set goals and targets. We always need something to look forward to. And I believe if you set goals and targets ahead of you, this is where we can start to think forward rather than thinking to ourselves, well, I've got nothing to look forward to. If you've got nothing to look forward to, you're automatically going to be feeling flat. You're going to be feeling down. You're going to be feeling unmotivated. Set goals and targets. Set yourself challenges. Give yourself a place to be, a place to go, a thing to do, something to learn. Now, depending on your budget, you could be as elaborate or as basic as you want. You might set yourself a challenge as going for a walk round the local countryside, around the woods or the forest or somewhere which is as close to you as possible, which doesn't actually cost you any real money to get to or to experience. Alternatively, you might think, no, I've got some money that I could spend on a trip, on a holiday, on a vacation. I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to go and visit a country that I've never been to before. How am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to put a map of the world on my wall. I'm going to get a dart or something similar. I'm going to throw it at the wall, and wherever it lands, that is where I'm going to go on a trip. You know, you can be as elaborate or as basic as you want to be. As long as you are setting goals and challenges, that's all that matters. You know, you could go and walk around your local park and get as much from that as somebody who travels across the world. It's each to their own. Everybody enjoys something different. Some people want elaborate experiences. Some people want peace and quiet and to literally, physically, metaphorically smell the roses. You know what I'm trying to say here? You can add value by setting goals and targets. Something else I think you should do, and this won't just help you, this is about helping others, literally, and that is doing some type of voluntary work, doing some type of charity work, being gracious, being supportive of other people who are in a more difficult life situation than yourself. We can always find people who are going through a more difficult grind than ourselves. Whatever our circumstances are, there is likely to be somebody going through worse. If you help other people, then you are likely to feel that nice warm glow of doing a good deed, helping you grow your self-esteem, realizing that you are a good person. And when you're going for a breakup, unfortunately, we often feel like we're not a good person, even if that is completely faulty thinking. If you help other people, you will also likely make new connections. Could be platonic, could even be romantic. But the people you mix with, whether these are the people you are helping, whether these are the people you're working with to help, They can be wonderful, meaningful connections. Now, you should only do this if you are truly wanting to help other people. Don't do it for you, do it for them. But what I am telling you is the bonus and the byproduct is you will feel better about yourself, self-esteem growing, confidence growing, and you will feel better when you go to sleep at night. That is certainly something to consider about how to add meaning to your life when you feel that your ex has ended everything that you wanted to look forward to. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about my life means nothing when we're apart. And point number 3 is they could be in your next chapter. So far we haven't even focused on your ex. This is what today's podcast is about. My life means nothing when I'm not with my former partner. They've left me and I'm no longer feeling the excitement and the buzz of life. Well, let me tell you, point number 3 is your ex could be in your next chapter. Now, I'm not trying to give you false hope, but it's important to remember that we are only living through the current chapter of our life. That is all we can see right now. And your ex isn't in this chapter. But we don't know when the story ends. And there is no guarantees either way whether your ex will contact you again. But let me tell you, I've heard of dumpers reach out to dumpees many years later. Now, this isn't the average. I would say the average is around 6 months. And I would say that after a year or more, you are starting to have less opportunity, less statistically likelihood of getting back together. But it doesn't mean it can't happen. And what this shows is we never know when the story ends. And therefore, your ex could yet still have a starring role in the next chapter of your life, or potentially a few chapters down the line. Now, as I said, I'm not trying to give you false hope, but what I am trying to say is it is possible. And therefore, you need to be remembering that you and your ex could yet still get back together. Whatever has happened in the past, whatever's happening right now, it doesn't mean that the future has been written, because it's yet to be written. And what I would say to you, and even if you're thinking, well, this is just a mindset that doesn't necessarily mean success, I would say you need to be getting into the mindset that you could hear from your ex again. And the reason I say this is because it's more likely to motivate you to live your life. You can't be sitting around. I would say that if you hear from your ex again, you need to be in the best possible position. You can't be sitting around at home doing nothing, moping around. Your ex says to you, what have you been doing these last 6 months? Oh, nothing. All right. Okay, why is that? Because I've just been sitting at home in my room with my head in my hands. That doesn't sound great. If you say that to your ex, that is not going to make them think, oh yeah, maybe we should get back together. If your ex reaches out to you, that is when the work really begins. And you need to be presenting to them somebody who is confident, somebody who is living their life, somebody who doesn't need your ex. It might seem like a strange point to consider here, but your ex needs to believe that you don't need them. If your ex thinks that you need them desperately, that is going to give them an abundance mindset. They're not going to treat you with the respect that you deserve. They will feel that you will always be there. They will not be in any rush to try to reconnect and treat you the right way. They need to believe that you could find somebody better. And let me tell you, that is the case. So you now need to be living in a way where you are pushing forward, growing every single day, making new connections. And if and when your ex reaches out to you and asks you what you've been doing these last 6 months, you have lots of things to say. And that will then make them believe that you are a confident, dateable option. When your ex reaches out to you, they're testing the water. They're kind of wanting to see where you're at right now. You need to be a version 2.0 of yourself, not a version 0.5. You can't be less attractive, less appealing, less everything than the last time they spoke to you. Because unfortunately, the last time they spoke to you, they dumped you. So you've got to be better than that, not worse. So please remember that your ex, the dumper, could be in the next chapter of your life. They're not in it right now, but they weren't in your first chapter. When you were born, when you were young, when you were at school, you were likely to have not even known of your ex. Maybe you didn't meet your ex till you was in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You had all of these years before you, which, like I said in point number 1, you would have had times where you felt happiness Happiness can be felt at different moments. You lived a life, many chapters before you met your ex. Everything was absolutely fine, and it will be again. So don't be fearful. Don't be thinking, okay, well, I need my ex in my life. No, you didn't need them in chapter 1, 2, and 3. So okay, if they're not in chapter 4 and 5, but they might be in chapter 6 and 7. Make sure you've got something to tell them if and when they come back. And if they don't come back, then by living your life, you will increase the chance of finding somebody even better. So it really is win-win. Get your ex back or find somebody even better. And that's why I said earlier, this year could be the best year of your life. Because this could be the moment where you start to put in place the plans, start to live your life to the full, start to go through the experiences, start to learn the skills, where you become a version 2.0 of yourself, which means that if and when you hear from your ex, you can reattract them and get back together. Or if you don't hear from them, or if you do and you change your mind, you can find a new romantic option who is even better than your ex. So start today, start now, start making this moment the best year of your life. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.